So what you're about to see is a scenario for the Chainmail Mass Battles game from way back in 1974. Well, actually, this is the third edition, so I think that might be 78, by Gary Gygax and Jeff Perrin, published by TSR. Going through the book one day, because I just like to go through the rules, especially Purple Druid has been doing some chainmail battles for a play-by-post campaign, and he's been posting videos on his channel. I'll put a link to that in this video. But going through, I ran across the point system for building forces in the at the end of the man-to-man section of the rule book, and I got this just random idea of what if I took essentially a citizen soldier force, because they have peasants and they have levies, versus more of an elite force. For infantry, the Swiss pikemen, and for cavalry, some heavy horse, and then some longbowmen. I said, what if these two forces come alive? Build them by points. Can peasants and levies and a few sort of standard units that any kind of kingdom would have versus this kind of elite invading force, how would they fare? Because peasants have to activate to do anything, to move, to attack, even to defend themselves. And you could also add, with the point system, you could add some weapons to them. To the levies, one of the things it mentions for levies is the Flemish, who were pretty good pikemen, but they need to be supported by cavalry. So I chose them as kind of an idea, sort of a variation of the Macedonian, the Greek ideal of the citizen soldier with the tight formations, with the long, in the case of the Greeks, the long spears, but in this case, pikes. And I gave the peasants arquebuses. Like there's rudimentary gunpowder weapons that can only fire every turn. They're very powerful, but they have limits. And it's kind of an idea. This is kind of a frontier area, maybe something like the Old West, U.S. Old West, United States Old West, where you have these citizens working the land and carrying guns, and then they're backed up by the citizen soldier formations who, it's like the National Guard, they drill every once in a while, and then there's some light cavalry and one group of armored, heavy hitters sponsored by whatever kingdom this is. And so that's the idea of the scenario. I don't explain it that well at the beginning of the video, so I want to tack this on. And so that's basically it. Using that point system, is the point system even valid? Does it make any sense? Does my choice of soldiers put one side or another at a disadvantage? How will that work? And that's all I got. So let's get into the actual play here.
This is a scenario I've been thinking about for Chainmail. We want to have an invading army coming in and local troops trying to respond. There have been essentially light horse kind of tracking this army to try to get the forces consolidated into the defense. The attacking force consists of these units. This is the front line essentially, which is longbowmen also functioning as light foot. They'll be followed on by 3 elements of heavy foot, which are functioning as Swiss pikemen in this scenario, and 1 element of heavy cavalry. These troops are peasants. They actually have to roll to activate, to move, to attack, to defend. They have to roll successfully. I'm going to give them a +1 to die roll to these particular units because they are defending their home village. They are also armed with arquebuses, however you say that. Rudimentary firearm, essentially. Fires every other turn. Following on from this group, will be more peasants from the surrounding area, as well as there are 4 elements of light horse, and there are 3 elements of levies, which are going to function as Flemish, which according to the rules get a +1 to their morale die rolls. Those are also armed with pikes. This group is very consolidated, so they will have the the rest of the units will pull on into the next turn. This group, theirs will be determined. They will definitely have at least 1 element of light horse coming next turn, and I'm going to roll a die each turn to see if it equals to or is less than the turn. Then more units will be able to come on that turn, and I'll roll randomly to see what direction they're coming from, because they're coming from throughout the countryside, mainly from this side and probably from the edges, maybe not so much from this side. And so finally, this group will be has already moved. These are movement markers indicating they took a move action to consolidate into essentially battle formation, and they have moved. But I'm also going to roll a die to see how far they've moved to get to this point. So we'll go ahead and roll that now. We'll roll a d6. So so they'll gain 1 additional movement marker to mark that so that we can see if they become fatigued. And this is basically the end of turn 1 that I'm recording, because there wasn't much going on as far as just getting these starting units on the board. All right, turn 2, and we're going to roll to see what reinforcements these guys get other than the light infantry. Since it's turn 2, I'm going to roll 2 dice. On a 2 or more, they'll get more reinforcements on either die. And they got a 2, so they'll get 1 more reinforcement. On a 1, it's going to be their Flemish pikemen. On a 2 or 3, it'll be another light horse, and on a 4, 5, or 6, it'll be more peasants coming in. And on a 3, it's going to be more light horse. So they're going to get 2 groups of light horse. And now we'll see, are they going to come in? They'll be coming in on the roads, so they can come in from the table edge. Which table edge? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5, 5. They're both coming in from this side. So they're going to end up between the peasants and the bowmen. Now the second question is, will the bowmen attempt to move over toward the high ground here, or will they take a direct path to try to sort of blitz the village? So we're going to grab some heartbeat fudge dice, and we'll see from the pluses or minus. If it's a plus, they'll be very aggressive. If it's a minus, they'll be more indirect. They'll look more for the high ground to get good bow shots in. And on blank, they'll split the difference. They'll kind of half head one way and half head the other. All right, so they got a minus overall. So we're gonna, well, let's see here. We'll go minus blank and plus blank. So minus, they're going to head for the high ground. These two are going to kind of angle off, trying to get back out of the way of their fellows coming in. But this group is going to move aggressively toward the group. And I'm moving these guys in centimeters since I'm working with kind of a small table here. But they can move 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move them half, which will be, I'll use their fatigue marker to mark their spot here. And these will move in this direction, so that they'll put them there. These will also move in that direction. Putting them there. And this group is heading for the hills. So here, they'll have to wheel, so that is actually going to take some of their movement away, so we'll just move this out of the way. So following on, when we use the front edge of the cardboard as the front edge of their formation here, the tray. So they're going to wheel that's about 1.5, so they can go 4.5, which will bring them to right there. And then they're going to get another movement marker. They're not fatigued yet. It is just marking their movement. And this will be the same group here. One and a half, and then 4.5. Wow, I put that just by accident right where it needed to be. And this group is going to turn about 1, and then they'll move 5, which will be just to the edge of the woods. And they're only moving 6 because they were in the woods, so they're not moving their full 12. Well, actually, that's not half a move then. Well, let's see. Will they be in range? I can probably do their full move. Even if this group moves to the front edge of the... No, they won't be in range even if this group moves. So we'll just go ahead and move them their full movement. Oh, that didn't good. All right. And this group is going to move all the way up. All right. Okay. And then this group, this is the first group of the off edge group. They're coming in from off the table, so they're not quite on all the way. And all the units of the Swiss pikemen, this is one formation of the Swiss pikemen. The heavy cavalry and these longbowmen all have the same movement, so it's 12 overall. So this group will be moving from the table's edge, essentially. And they won't be able to move super far because of the cavalry that's still in their way. But the woods are holding them back anyway, so... There we go. And then another group coming in behind them. Oop. Then there'll be more units behind them. The infantry, the cavalry would have been on their flank essentially, so they'll be coming in here. Since they're moving in through clear terrain, they actually have their full 12 from the edge, so they will be able to go to here, I believe. A little too far. And since they've been moving at the same rate, they're the same army, they've been moving at the same time and at the same rate, they all have been moving the same amount of turns, even though some of them were off map. But with the logjam here, the third group of pikes are actually going to have to stop and wait for these groups to move up, so they will actually be rested when they come onto the field. Now these guys normally need to roll to move, but again, they're defending their village, so they were able to organize for free. I won't give them free movement to the edge of their village where they'll be under cover, but to move out of cover or to do any kind of combat, they're going to need to roll as per normal. Let's see. And this is just organizing, so I'm not going to measure. They're organizing, they're getting it together in their own village, so they know how to operate essentially within their village. Because it's not, they would have been 6 or 7 or 8 inches, but I'm going to give them kind of the benefit of movement in their own village. If they were trying to move just through the village from the outside, they'd be doing a half movement. All right, let's bring on the light cavalry. And so they get 24. No, wait, they're both coming in from the edge here. I'll get another stand to pull in behind them. But essentially they're having to take turns getting on the, well, let's see, there's road movement bonus. What is the road movement bonus? They get a road bonus of 6. So they get an additional 6. Well, this is 24. So they'll get the full 30. So yeah, they can move right on through. And then I'll bring the other stand in behind them. So they'll be able to kind of array between them. And we may have combat pretty soon here. Alright, get these guys in here. So now we need to see if they are in range, missile fire range, of these archers. So they have a range of 21, which will be, they are in range, looks like all the way across the board here. See, maybe this group isn't, nope, they're all within range. So these two groups can fire here. All these groups can fire. The only 2 ranks can fire since they're on flat terrain. So that's a total of 12 from each group. These 2 groups will fire here. These 2 groups will fire here. But since they move their full movement, they're going to have to beat a die roll. So the blue die will be the cavalry. The other die will be the archers. So first group of longbowmen, no. Second group of longbowmen, no. Third group of longbowmen, no. Fourth group of longbowmen, yes, they will fire. So there are 12 of them. They are firing against light, so they're unarmored. There can only be a maximum of 10 in a group, so there will be 1 group of 10 firing and 1 group of 2 firing. So for the group of 10, they will either do 4 or 5 casualties. With a 1, they do 4, and the 1 to 2, they will do 0 or 1. And with a 2, they do 0. So 4 casualties come off for the bowmen. Let's see here. This group fires coming off this group of cavalry. So they have taken 4 losses. So 4 out of 24 does not constitute enough for a melee check. So we need to mark their movement. Second time they've moved. And let's roll to see how many times they've moved to get here to the battlefield. They've moved 3 to get here, and then they're moving on to the battlefield, so they are at 4. So they have hustled to the battlefield, and now that they're here, they're going to make a decision of whether to try to get immediately into combat or to take a rest momentarily. And that's it for turn 2.